Rather than talk a lot about the technology itself, I wanted to talk more about the lessons learned through the work that we've been doing that they referenced. I joined TT about a year ago, and it was a time of radical transformation at the firm, taking a 20-year-old core product and literally rebuilding it from the ground up. And it was especially interesting for me over the last year because a lot of the technologies that we're using are the same technologies driving innovation in other areas of fintech, consumer-facing products, banking, payments, that sort of thing. But at TT, we're taking them and they're being fully embraced in a high-performance, real-time trading platform. If you'd asked me a year ago, prior to my joining TT, what were the technology forces that were leveling the playing field in professional trading, I would have talked about the commoditization of low latency technologies, long-haul wireless network paths, FPGAs, that sort of thing. I wouldn't have talked about the meaningful impact that internet technologies, software in a browser, cloud computing, could have on a professional trading system. I just didn't believe back then that they could meet the demands of a professional trader. So it took me by surprise when I started learning about what TT was doing before I started, and it's really a hybrid platform. So you have C and C++ on some components, Java, Scala, Python on others. It's deployed in the colo on bare metal, it's on virtual machines, and it's in the cloud. And the most interesting thing for me was that it's going to be delivered and is being delivered to the desktop in a browser using HTML5 and JavaScript, and it's accessible via mobile devices. Behind this decision to embrace new technologies is a fundamental belief that if you choose the right tool for the job, you open yourself up to have a more flexible and scalable platform. Rather than taking prejudices against certain technologies in, having an open mind and embracing new technologies gives you the chance to add more value for your users. So I want to share a few lessons learned over the last year. I think I already knew all these, and I probably paid them all lip service a year ago. None of these are rocket science or revolutionary, but going through the process using tools like Amazon's cloud and trying to deliver a zero install platform like Adam mentioned have really driven these lessons home for me. The first, Adam was a great introduction to this, don't be a slave to performance. Performance matters. I'm not saying that in the new TT platform we're not focused on performance. Quite the opposite. We have invested a ton of time, energy, resources in making it fast. What I am saying though is that every deliverable or component you build into a product should have defined performance requirements. Sometimes they're explicit, sometimes they're implicit. We certainly have components where we have specific latency targets that must be met. But you need to define those requirements and build to the requirements rather than endlessly building for more and more speed. These performance can be measured in more than one way. It's important to remember that it's not just the speed of your technology, it's also the speed of time to market, your team's performance, and more than anything, measuring performance in terms of business profitability. So we can't let technical performance trump business performance and your team's performance. We have to remember technology is the means, not the end. And again, very similar to things Adam shared, if that extra microsecond or nanosecond doesn't have a meaningful impact on your business, you have to ask yourself why you're chasing it. The second lesson is the value of the engineering generalist is on the rise and is only going to continue increasing in the coming years. There's an anti-pattern in software engineering called the golden hammer. And it's essentially the engineering equivalent of if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Engineers are prone to take one approach or tool that's worked in one place and use it over and over again to try to solve every problem. In my experience, the software stack at most trading firms reflects this. Whoever was there first and got it started chose a language. They're passionate about that language. They believe that they can do everything using that one tool. And that's the way that specialists in fintech have worked, especially professional trading, for too long. In contrast to this approach, at TT, we've adopted a number of technologies, each one chosen to try to solve a specific problem. In a world where compute power is more available to anyone than ever before in the cloud, tools for data analysis at a massive scale are accessible to everyone. Data itself is more available, and every device is connected to the internet with a browser. The engineer who can navigate between tools and technologies and can solve problems up and down the stack is going to add far more value than the specialist who does one thing repeatedly very well. I'm not saying that everyone needs to learn JavaScript and use the cloud, although Adam thinks you all will at some point, I think. But I am saying that in a world where you want to build the best solution in a timely manner at the lowest cost that brings the most value to your users, you need to have more than one tool. And the third lesson is that knowing your customers and your domain is far more important than your ability to build great technology. The democratizing force of technology in the form of internet technologies and the commoditization of low latency technologies means that if you're in professional trading, your competitors have access to the same things you do. So your differentiator needs to move from being about technical expertise to being about understanding the user and the problems that they face. For the engineer, this means that you make decisions every day in the gap between defined requirements and the final implementation. And the better you know your user, the better the decisions you make in that gap, and that results in a better product and hopefully a more profitable result. For the product manager, this means that you need to double down on time spent with and thinking about your users. We can't assume that the way things have been in the past is the way things will be in the future. This is a major battle inside TT. We always have to remember, 20-year-old product doesn't mean that everything we build in the next year needs to reflect what was there over the last 20 years. Our users are evolving and our business is changing. We need to know our users well enough to ensure that not only is the technology solid, but that the product meets their needs and helps them to become the people they want to be. And in our context, that means understanding how they make money so that we can help them do that more. As the power of technology continues to have a democratizing effect, your differentiator needs to be how well you know your users rather than just technical expertise. It's been an exciting year for me personally, for I think a lot of people at TT who've invested a long time and much energy in building this new platform. It's especially exciting because of the new tools available if you're starting from scratch today, like we were able to do a couple years ago. And that accessibility to new technologies is leveling the playing field. So again, I'd encourage you in the context of a leveling playing field, build for value rather than just speed and performance. Don't get caught using the same tool repeatedly over and over again. Diversify the tools that you use. And most importantly, value your users more than your product and more than your technology. If they're not successful, then neither are you. Thanks.